All right. God, carry me through this, please. Hey y'all, it's Mia. Welcome back. It is time to talk about Marvel Studios' Moon Knight episode 1. We are talking spoilers, baby. The first episode, my gosh, stylistically, very awesome. Oscar Isaac, very awesome. I don't think I need to spend, 1,000 words talking about just how amazing Oscar Isaac was in this. But what I really did enjoy about this series was this premiere episode was, gosh, it just feels like such a promising start for a TV show that just looks so wacky not even wacky, just intriguing based on the trailers. Because, we have Oscar Isaac we saw him as Stephen Grant in this majority of this first episode where he's just this goofy guy bumbling around, and he has to tie himself to his bed and because he doesn't trust himself, and he can't tell if he's dreaming or if he's awake or what the heck is going on with him. And so they really start dropping these really interesting seeds about what's going on. Why does he have these voices in his head? It was really giving Venom, oh, the idiot is in control. Briefly, I will say maybe my one issue with this pilot episode was that I think I was so eager to know all of the answers at once that it felt like just spending all that time on like wimpy Steven. I was like, let's get to it. Like when they finally showed Moon Knight, like in the last 30 seconds, I was like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But for the most part, I was like, oh my gosh, if I could just watch maybe 15 minutes and get the gist of the first episode and then skip to episode 2, I would have felt a lot more relieved. But I was looking on Twitter and I was looking on Reddit and YouTube, and it seems like there's a lot of people who just really overall enjoyed this first episode, and some are saying it's like the best pilot episode that the Marvel Studios shows have brought about. I don't know if I can say that for sure. I haven't really thought on that too much. I know I really enjoyed WandaVision. I really enjoyed Loki. Those were my two favorite live action shows. Falcon and Winter Soldier was okay to me, but yeah, seems to be very exciting, and I wanted to just dig into all of these theories that I have going on, because there is, like I said, a lot to break down and a lot to uncrack. And the first of those being is what is going on with Steven / Mark / whoever, who the heck is roaming around in his head. Now actually you get a pretty good answer from the IMDb. I should have looked this up earlier. Literally it says in the summary, a former US Marine struggling with dissociative identity disorder is granted the powers of an Egyptian moon god, but he soon finds out that these newfound powers can be both a blessing and a curse to his troubled life. So it makes me wonder, truly this is more than just having this. Wait, now I'm trying to figure it out. The more I talk about it, the less it makes sense. So he already had this. Okay, so a former U.S. Marine, which obviously means that is the Mark Spector aspect of him, because he has an American accent. Okay, that makes sense. And he has this disorder where he's struggle. Okay, so I think what is throwing me off is the fact that the first episode was centered around the point of view of Steven, so it feels like he is kind of the protagonist or the main person in charge. But then it's like when you go based off of the perspective of the summary, then it makes it seem like Mark is in charge. But the fact is, it's like, oh my gosh, Steven lives in London and he has a house, he has friends and friends, he has coworkers, and he talks to his mom on the phone every day. I'm wondering if he is even talking to anyone on the phone, but it's an interesting dynamic to play out and to wonder, okay, then why in the first place did Mark even want to accept the powers from the moon god? I guess we'll find out, shortly enough and see okay, who is really in control here and why. I'm just gonna move on past that and talk about something that I think that I can't talk about, which is Ethan Hawke's character Arthur. And thinking about what his grand scheme is, because we saw when they were up in the Alps, you know, Steven feels like he's transported there, but really I guess it was Mark who was like, hey, we're going to the Alps, you know, to kick this guy's butt. But you see that Arthur, you know, has these scales, the scales tattoo, and he has this cult following where it's like, you know, they are committed to the idea of this Egyptian god, where it's essentially like, hey, you know, instead of waiting for your day of judgment at death, why don't we just take care of it while you're still alive? We can have heaven on earth. And it kind of feels like a more moral Thanos situation, whereas Thanos was like, you know what, I'm just gonna eliminate like half of the universe, and you know, it's just gonna be a random sample and everything should be better. Whereas Ethan Hawke as Arthur is like, well, you know what, we could all just live in a better society if we just get rid of the wackos, which I agree. No. Arthur was right. So yeah, it makes me wonder overall what his grand scheme is. And we see that there's this kind of like Scarab Beetle that Mark had stolen, and Arthur's trying to get it back. So I'm wondering, okay, is this gonna have something to do with maybe amplifying his master plan to, you know, exact judgment over the whole earth? And that kind of makes me think about Wonder Woman 1984, where you had Oscar Isaac. They're the same person, Pedro Pascal, they're bros. Pedro Pascal's character, who was, you know, kind of obsessed with this idea of granting everyone their wish. So, you know, spoiler alert, he goes out to like the White House so he could broadcast his powers to everyone. So I'm wondering if the whole plot of, what's this guy's name, Arthur Harrow, will be to, like, you know, use the beetle somehow, go to a pyramid, send the beam up into the sky and say, well, you know, now instead of judging everyone one by one, which he's limited to right now, I can just, you know, unleash my powers against the whole world, and, you know, all the sinners be gone. Can you imagine? Do you think they'd take out Will Smith if that happened? Oh, like maybe he was safe like a week ago, but then after the Oscars, it's like he's gone. Wow. So yeah, I think we'll understand a little bit more about what's his deal and why Mark is after him. Hopefully, it doesn't take too long for them to unravel the whole mystery and explain what he's up to, because we've only got 6 episodes, and that also makes me wonder, what this character Layla is up to, because when Steven goes to his apartment, his flat, and he finds the secret phone and he sees he's got all these missed calls from Layla, and she's wondering where he's been, what he's going through, and we don't really get a lot about her character aside from that one interaction. So I'm just wondering, like, is she in on it? Is she there to help? Or, what's going on with her? I don't know. There's just not enough information. So then the other thing that I want to talk about, which is semi-related to the plot, but also kind of not, is just at the end of the day, I think everyone is curious to know, how does this fit into the MCU? Because I've seen some of the reviews, and even just based on the first episode, there's really nothing that tells us this is based in the MCU. There's no mention of Thanos or the snap or any of those things, which makes it quite interesting compared to our other offerings, like, well, obviously all of the Disney Plus shows that have come so far, but then even things like Shang-Chi and Eternals. But the thing is, though, it's like, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think, it kind of helps to set the focus on Mark and on Steve and on Moon Knight, so you have this complete picture to tell about him without getting too buried in the rest of the MCU lore. Like, I'm thinking kind of like in terms of the Batman, or pretty much any side DC thing has done, like, you don't necessarily always have to be bogged down by how does this connect to this and this connects to that. You can just relax and breathe and tell, a nice organic story, and it just so happens to be in a Marvel character, it just so happens to be set in the MCU, but there's not this greater, grander scheme. And the one thing that points to it is that, like, Oscar Isaac said in an interview that, or supposedly, he didn't like really lock himself into this long contract. They'll just play it by ear. And I mean, I'm like, by Kevin Feige's standards, that doesn't sound very cash money, I'm sure, to him, but I also am pretty sure that no matter how it goes, they will probably try to find a way to bring Moon Knight back. it's so uncharacteristic to think that Marvel would be like, oh, we're just going to do a one-off and never come back to this, you know, just tell this one story and be done. But I mean, I might commend them if they happen to do that. And it's like, yeah, we just want to tell a story about Moon Knight. Here he is, get in and out and go. It also makes me consider like, what if Moon Knight was a one-off movie? And kind of like my problem with this was that I was like, I wish I could have skipped to episode 2 and not have spent so much time in the pilot episode. I'm wondering like if it was a movie where you could get in and out in like, you know, 2 hours, maybe, you know, 2.5 hours, would that have been more effective? And I know we haven't, like, we still have 5 episodes to go and there's so much more to unravel. So I'm looking forward to seeing what other mysteries come along in these next couple of episodes, because I'm sure it's going to be mind-blowing and trippy and all sorts of things. Oh, and I'm also excited for them to get into more of like the Egypt stuff. Like it looked like based off the trailers, they're going to be going into pyramids or going into tombs or going into these old places. So I'm really excited for it to, you know, for them to transport themselves out of London and just go, you know, full on weird and Tomb Raider with it. So alright guys, so that's all I had to say about the first episode of Moon Knight. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think is up with Arthur? You know, what do you think is up with Mark/Steven? And how do you think this will fit in the MCU, if at all? I'm still coming off of my post-fever loopiness, so yeah, if I forgot anything, let's discuss it in the comments below. And I'm looking forward to recapping and discussing these episodes every week as the show goes on. So please be sure to give it a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe so you can keep up with this discussion every week. Here is a video I think you all would enjoy next, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.